Neuroprotective Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
What is your experience? I mean, does it retard the progression of Alzheimer's, or does it?
Well, that, you know, there's not studies to prove this. What there is there are surveys that have shown users tend to have, in same families and at high risk, seem to have later onset or non-onset of it. That seems to be protective. So we know that there's work being done on UVIC, for example, with anti-inflammatories. Some drugs now, then they were looking at curcumin, and using natural anti-inflammatories to prevent the onset of Alzheimer's in particular. So certainly this plant shares many of those anti-inflammatory properties, works through the same mechanism. So it's known to be neuroprotective in rats. It's known that in large populations using it, there's reduced levels of dementia that would be expected from the family risk and their peers. And there's definitely a sound mechanism. So I'm not guaranteeing it prevents all Alzheimer's, but it does have a neuroprotective role.
Thank you.
So at least it's an issue to watch.
Well, how do we, from your perspective, how do we move this science forward in such a way that we can get better adoption by the medical profession? When I talk to my medical professional, he says, Scott, I'm not against what you're talking about, but please show me the dosing guide.
Yeah.
Show me the science, if you will, in a more definitive way. I mean, what's your thinking on that? I mean, doing clinical trials.
Well, it's really difficult. Where does it? I took 2 years to figure out some of these things out and begin to get a sense of how to dose these things. I can't legally prescribe them, but I'm not going to prescribe marijuana for smoking anyway, so it's kind of moot. But it is very difficult to know what strain, what product, what club to go to, what dose to use. It's all at preclinical stage. There are no clinical trials to guide us. We're in an evidence-free zone here. So, but the point I want to make about the neuroplasticity is that there is evidence that it protects the nervous system and that long-term users do not have cognitive decline, because there was an argument that it would cause mental decline in people, that we would become stupid faster, they would become demented. And it just doesn't work that way. In fact, quite the opposite. It forestalls dementia. So, and cognitive decline generally has not been demonstrated in long-term users. So it is actually reasonably safe for the brain for long-term use. So that's what we know, that it is relatively safe. And the arguments that it's unsafe to the brain for long-term use are not true. But is it actually worthwhile, the best thing to take to prevent Alzheimer's? Perhaps not. Perhaps curcumin, something else would be better. But I don't know the answer to that yet.
Thank you.
I disagree with Dr. McKinney. I don't think it's obvious to say it doesn't cause long-term effects, but some people have become so stupid that they become president of America.
Yeah. I stand corrected. Yeah.
What about studies that suggest it might be detrimental to the immature brain, the immature cannabinoid system, endocannabinoid system?
Yeah, I think that's true.
There's this one out of New Zealand that they're beating us over the head with that showed an IQ decline in chronic users who began.
Yeah, there is a large push to keep it out of the hands of children and teenagers, and I think there's a real rationale for that. I think that that's not just the nanny state. I think there's real concerns there. So yeah, I think this is a medicine best reserved for people whose brains have grown up. But unless there's a sporadic medical need, like an intractable epilepsy, then we have to break eggs and make omelets.
Do you have any idea at what age the endocannabinoid system is mature and thereby?
About 14.
14.
So 15 might be a reasonable age, but more than likely it's going to be age of maturity, majority.
And as often is the case, time is the most precious thing.
Yeah.
I did see a question up there and Paula,
yeah.
But I think we'll limit it to those two questions, and then we'll have to do the rest of the private.
Excellent. Thank you for coming here, first of all. I have a two-part question. How do we test the THC in the oil, assuming we're in BC and we could get our hands on any kind of medicine we wanted? how do we test that we specifically are starting? with
If you
the
have a Health Canada license,
Yes.
you can take a product to MD Labs in Sydney near the airport and they will test for you. It's fully accredited labs that have a Health Canada test cannabinoids.
So now we're running out of time, we have whatever, however many days left. So if we wanted to start tomorrow, how much time would it take them to test the product?
Not long.
Okay.
48 hours.
Yeah.
My second part of the question is, which part of the plant is best to use to make that oil out of? Because making the oil seems simple enough, but is the flower with the trichomes on it, or should be part of the leaves included?
Yeah, definitely, we like to use the indica bud and upper leaves,
So the
not
small,
stems and sticks.
the small leaves that are sticking out of the top of the main coat.
Yeah, any of them that have a little bit of trichomes, little crystal on them, sugar leaves.
Thank you, sir.
Two-part question too. Can you point us to any research for psychiatric use?
Yeah, there was, there are a number of papers, well, the pop book has some from a few years ago, but the IORC meeting at UVIC, there were several there to do with psychiatric use, and I have loaned that to the nurse who heads the mental health branch of military base. But I get that back and sometimes loan it to you.